Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And I had someone say in the comments of one of my Scooby videos discussing body fat and health and all of that, said, you know, Jason, but powerlifting really has an obesity problem. There's a lot of fat people in powerlifting. In fact, tons of them. And that's just simply not true. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing and let's talk about this a bit. All right, guys, this is where people see the internet versus reality, and they don't understand the difference. A couple of things that you might believe about powerlifting if you were on the internet is that the majority of powerlifters are over 20% body fat. Absolutely not true. The majority are under that. The majority are in the healthy body fat range, in my personal experience. Number two, that the lifts you see on the internet are indicative of what you will see at regional type meets and things. And that's one of the things that came out. You know, a lot of people didn't understand the last time I was competing back in the UK and I got invited to the Worlds. They're like, how in the world did you get invited to the Worlds with lifts that bad? Because I was in the top 5% in the world. Okay, here's a little bit of reality, guys. Larry Wheels doesn't represent the average power lifter who's winning at the state level. Okay, like if you're just trying to break state records and get invited to Worlds, you don't have to deadlift 800 pounds. Let's be realistic here. If you can deadlift 600 pounds, you're probably going to go to Worlds in almost any class. Like, let's just be honest here. People have some major misconceptions about how much powerlifters lift. They have misconceptions about how fat they are because of stuff they see on the internet. When you see online, a lot of the times the stuff that you see are the heaviest and biggest lifters in the entire world, right? You'll see the super heavyweights, like Ray Williams, right? You'll see this enormously fat guy weighing way over 300 pounds in a weight class that has no weight limit. 95 to 99% of powerlifters compete in a weight class. You have to make weight. Not only that, if you were to go to a qualified meet, like a national level event, or an international event or anything like that, you know everyone who's there got invited, right? They had a minimum qualifying total and they had to have won something already. So those are invite only. So like the last meet you guys saw me at, you had to have a minimum qualifying total for your class and you had to have placed in a regional at a certain level or higher for your class. And I think it was like the top 2 spots in each class or top whatever. I know the guy, I took first in mine for that last regional I did, and the guy behind me got invited also. And he placed like 8th, I think. I think he placed 8th in our class at nationals. And I took 3rd. So the point is, though, you have to qualify. And you have to have a minimum total based on your weight class. So, and the higher you go into any competition in any federation, the higher that minimum total goes. So here's the question I would have for people who think all powerlifters are going to be enormously fat, particularly when you step out of the super heavyweights that have an open-ended weight class, and you have a qualifying total to meet to be invited. Do you think it's easy to hit those numbers for your class if you're walking around at 30% body fat? Do you know how hard that is? We're not talking about necessarily a multiply, because some people could argue that multiply, in some cases, some of the suits seem to be helped by being really fat with the leverages, but not raw lifters or even raw with wraps. Body fat hurts you in a lot of ways. It helps you on the bench press, but it hurts you on the deadlift. People say, what do you mean? In other words, if I took you right now, wherever you are, and we were to just magically add 50 pounds of fat to you, your deadlift would go down. Right? If you just magically transported it, you kept the same amount of muscle and the same amount of strength, you would not be able to deadlift the same max deadlift that you could deadlift right now. You guys see the problem there? You lose leverages, your belly gets in the way, your belly weight and the weight of your torso can hurt you on the squat and the deadlift. And your belly gets in the way of the deadlift. Why do you think Ray Williams can't deadlift as much as people who weigh less than him in non-tested powerlifting? You know, why do you think there are guys out there who are 150 pounds lighter than him who can out deadlift him by 50, 60, 100 pounds? Because he's fat. Now, fat helps you on the bench press, but it hurts you on the deadlift. So if you have to make weight for a class and you have to hit a certain total, the body fat is hurting your total tremendously relative to your body weight. So if you're enormously fat, it's very hard to qualify. It's extremely hard. And the fatter you are, the harder it is to qualify at higher and higher levels. It's a disadvantage. Like outside of the heaviest weight classes, which only a tiny percentage of powerlifters compete in, as you get fatter, it gets harder to become competitive. You're going to lose. You're going to not be able to go to the higher levels. So powerlifting actually is anti-body fat. It's actually anti-body fat. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that you need to be ripped, but what you're going to find when you go to most, anything beyond a regional powerlifting meet, you go to a national level event, you're going to find the majority of the guys there have visible abs. The majority have visible abs. You're also going to find the vast majority, and I'm going to talk like 90% or more of the lifters are somewhere between 10 and 20% body fat, which is what medically, we're not talking about bodybuilding, we're not talking about physique culture, we are talking about what medical doctors and experts say is your ideal body fat range for men to be healthy, right? If you're usually between 10 to 20%, that's your kind of your Goldilocks zone for health, which is what we're talking about here, health. Not how you look on the cover of a magazine, but your health. 10 to 20%, that's your healthy range. Well, that's where most are. And the further you go into competition, the leaner and leaner the guys get. And when you start getting to the world level, the guys who are placing well at worlds and guys who are breaking records, a lot of them are shredded because it lets them make a better weight class. If you have a lot of muscle and not a lot of fat, you have a whole lot of functional weight on your body. That means that relative to your body weight, you're going to be stronger. In other words, in any given weight class, the shorter and leaner you can be at the same body weight, the better you're going to do. More weight you're probably going to be able to lift because you can cut range of motion and you don't have non-functional weight like body fat. So yeah, you start finding guys who can successfully stay at 8 or 9% body fat without having too many health problems from it, who are shorter than the other guys in their weight class. They're going to absolutely crush it. If you're 2 inches shorter with 10 pounds less body fat than someone else, he is not going to beat you in a powerlifting meet. 99% of the time, you're going to crush him. So weight classes tend to be sorted more for height and for leanness more than anything else. That's usually two of your biggest factors that determine what weight class you're going to end up wanting to be in, ideally. So no, there really isn't an obesity problem. Now, when you start getting into super heavyweights, you start getting into the multiply stuff, where you look at the lowest levels of competition, there's a lot of really fat guys. Not as you go further in, and it's gotten more and more competitive. You know, it's like by that same token, people, if they look at the internet, think every powerlifter lifts enormous amounts of weight. They really don't. And I mean, I've jokingly had people say, Jason, you should be benching 405. You should be squatting 600, you should be deadlifting 700 with your current years of experience and everything else. Yeah, that would make me, for my class, that would make me the national record holder in the squat, bench, deadlift in total. No. And it wouldn't even be by a small amount. I wouldn't just be like 10 pounds over the current record holder either. What do you guys think the USPA, the biggest non-drug test that they allow you to use drugs, biggest powerlifting meet in the United States, biggest federation for non-drug tested classes, what do you think the records are in America for my class? It's like a 562 squat. It's a 402 bench. It's not even a 405 bench. And I think it's like a 660 deadlift. Right? That's the American records. And I think, I could be wrong, I think that squat and that deadlift holder in America are actually the world record holders for that federation also. Yeah, that's you can use drugs. There's no drug testing for that. That's what the non-drug tested American records are for my class. Perspective here, people. Perspective. So you see stuff like that, and then you go, oh, so maybe a lot of powerlifters, maybe they aren't quite as strong as what you would perceive if you just watched the internet and just watched YouTube. And you're going to find you start going, if you go to real competitions, particularly when you go above the regional level, you go to some real meets and you start looking around and you look at the non-super heavyweight guys, the guys who weigh less than 300 pounds, which is going to be sometimes when you go to a 3-day long meet, you're not going to see anybody lift for the first 2 days who's in those heavier weight classes. They don't even go usually till the last flights. They're like on day 3 of a 3-day meet. They're not even competing the first 2 days, right? You're not going to see very many fat people at a big national level meet of any type. You're just not going to see them. And when you do, they're going to be on the final flights, the final days. So you might go 2 full days without seeing more than one fat person compete. Like 12 hours long of powerlifting meets. It happens. Reality versus perceptions of the internet. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.